off toward the east as we head through the next hour and a half. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, that once this moves on through, this is going to be the leading edge, and behind it, perhaps another line of storms, but not quite as intense. And I'm very confident by 7, 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to get most, if not all of this out of here. So good news there. Mark, are you learning anything additional back there?
That there are reports of some down trees out along the I-66 corridor. 57 knot reported at Dulles is roughly about 65-mile-per-hour winds coming in with the storm. I'm still looking into it. The leading edge of a storm, though, is approaching the entire metro. Now, as you mentioned, Steve, the destructive tag does now include the entire Capital Beltway, all of the counties surrounding the district at this time, and this will be for the next hour or so. If you are watching anywhere around the metro, make sure that you are taking shelter. This is producing wind gusts up to about 70 and 80 miles per hour. That can definitely down trees, that can definitely down power lines, and also cause some torrential downpours. The Dulles camera is white out at this point. It was just dark a couple of minutes ago. You can barely see much because of how hard the rain is falling out in this portion of Loudoun County. If you're about to hit the roads for your commute, I would suggest staying indoors until these storms pass. You do not want to be on the roads when destructive thunderstorms are moving through the area. And yeah, these storms almost intensifying, Steve, as they're approaching the I-95 corridor.
All right, so we'll head back to Max 2 right here. You can see on your screen the area that is shaded in black, that is flashing black and orange. That is where the destructive warrant, severe thunderstorm warning is right now. We don't see these very often around here. We've had considerable warnings. We've had standard severe thunderstorm warnings, but this is at the highest level that you can get in terms of destructive severe thunderstorm warning alerts. Treat it almost like a tornado warning. It's moving toward your direction. This is where you need to stay away from the windows. You need to find an area that perhaps an interior closet or a bathroom. And this is moving right over toward Dulles International Airport. And we'll see this catch up with us over the next minute or so here as this radar continues to refresh. But Reston, even though you're technically outside of that destructive category, you are going to see this continue to move on off toward the east at around 50 miles per hour. The good news with this, these are really fast-moving weather makers. The bad news, we have winds reported upwards of 80 miles per hour. It does appear that the National Weather Service office in Sterling at 3:48, they sent an alert out that they are taking a direct hit from this storm as it moves overhead, and this will eventually make its way over toward the Beltway and then over into the Montgomery County. And you can see now the wider view out for you. It does show that we have expanded not the destructive category, but now considerable. So the destructive one is off toward the west, where you see the white lines and the shaded with that, we call them polygons. That right now is a considerable severe thunderstorm warning, and that will likely produce wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour. We're talking areas inside the Beltway, the district, Arlington, Alexandria, over toward National Harbor, and then eventually this is going to zip its way off toward the north and east. This line right here, I'm just going to widen this out for you briefly for you. This is the main line, and this is right according to forecast for what we thought was going to materialize. As this line moves on off toward the east, we're going to look for a secondary line to return behind it. But at that point, we don't expect there to be quite as much energy associated with the front as it moves on through, and that's why our confidence level fairly high that we're going to get all this out of here by about 8 o'clock tonight. The severe thunderstorm watch for most of the areas until 9 o'clock, but that will come down, I believe, well ahead of schedule. So let's head in a little bit closer for you once again. And I want to focus on the one that is now been tagged, and we call them tags because every severe thunderstorm warning that we get is either a standard severe thunderstorm warning or it is tagged as destructive or considerable. This right here is the destructive severe thunderstorm warning moving over Dulles International Airport, and it looks like the camera that we're seeing on the back end, Route 7 Lansdowne. So you can see traffic is now moving, and at least visibility is being improved. You can see the pavement is still very, very wet. but we're going to head over to our Tyson's camera, and we have that on max number 1, and that will show you the skies are beginning to definitely darken as this storm begins to approach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom through here. I want to keep this on this model here, but perhaps we can have Mark go through some weather cameras for us.
Yep. I'm getting Tyson's. I'm shifting it farther towards what will be the west. And as you can see, Steve, as you mentioned, some very dark clouds. National Weather Service also reporting numerous trees down near the intersection of Trailhead and US 50 in the Little River Turnpike, as well as more numerous trees down in a separate location along VA 55 along the John Marshall Highway between Haymarket and Gainesville. So here's, you can see these storm clouds moving in. You can see the motion with them, with how fast it's approaching. And as you mentioned, Steve, this is moving very fast, so while it's fast and destructive, they'll be out of here shortly. And what we see right here, this is looking like the leading edge of the shelf cloud moving in, but it is, you can see these rain shafts moving in pretty fast over in Tyson's at this time.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mark. Just need to stress here that we have one severe thunderstorm warning that has now been labeled as destructive. And here we are, we're approaching 4 o'clock in about 40 seconds here, and we're going to see that destructive tag come down, and we're likely to see the National Weather Service either extend it or expand it a little bit farther. So here we are now at 3:59:35, in about another 20 seconds or so, we are going to see the way you see it flashing from black to orange to black to orange. We'll likely see that come down. It will be reshaped. Middleburg, you are in the clear. No worries for you. Marshall, you are also in the clear. The same for Round Hill. Biggest concerns right now over toward Potomac Farms, over toward Reston. That's where the storm is now moving at around 50 miles per hour. And we have wind gusts. Okay, so good news there that the considerable or destructive severe thunderstorm warning has now come down. So we are all clear with that, but notice now that we have that other severe thunderstorm warning, the larger one right here, and that does include Potomac Falls, Reston, Fairfax, the District, Arlington, Alexandria, Silver Spring, Wheaton, Bethesda, Rockville, Laurel, over into College Park, over into National Harbor, Mount Vernon, Old Town Alexandria, Reagan National Airport. I'm listing a lot of very, very densely populated areas here because this is where this line, this one single line, is now moving on off toward the east at just around 50 miles per hour. We're going to head to our open right now, and we'll continue to follow all of this for you.
7 News on your side at 4 starts now.
Our top story at 4, thunderstorms rolling through the DMV this afternoon as we are under a severe alert. You're looking live at Route 7 and Lansdowne just west of Dulles Airport.
Yeah, and you just heard them there, meteorologist Steve Rudin and Mark Pena. They are on your side monitoring the latest forecast, what's happening out there. We'll start with Steve. Walk us through what you're seeing and what you expect over the next few hours, Steve.
All righty, so we are going to be in the thick of it right now, at least for the next hour or so for the metro area, and then we're going to see a vast improvement come 6, 7, 8 o'clock as that secondary line of storms moves on through. But right now, primary focus, very large severe thunderstorm warning. You can see it right over here, and you see that it is shaded with those lines going through it. That means that it has been tagged as considerable. Now, just about 5 minutes ago, we had a severe thunderstorm warning that was tagged at destructive with winds upwards of 80 miles per hour. Now, these winds are clocked at around 70, moving to the east at around 50. So city of Fairfax over into Mantua and Reston, you're just on the leading edge of these strong to severe thunderstorms, and it will eventually impact not only the western edge of the Capital Beltway, but will make its way through the city and then eventually exit off toward the north and east. And you can see that trajectory over toward the District and then eventually over toward Laurel and then eventually toward Bowie. But this is now until 4:45. So this is a long-standing severe thunderstorm warning that we have here, and this is all part of a cold front. Now, this is not the actual actual cold front that's moving through right now. This is the leading edge of it. The actual cold front's going to arrive here in another couple of hours with perhaps a few stronger thunderstorms and showers. And once we get that out of here, that is when we're finally going to have some relief from the heat and the humidity. Mark Pena has been busy and back. He's been checking out cameras and radar for us.
Yep.
And Mark, what are some of the updates that you have for us?
The storms are approaching Tysons, and we got a pretty hefty shelf cloud moving in. The shelf cloud is an indication that there's some very cold air coming in from these showers moving in at this time. A lot of wind gusts being reported, about 60 to 70 miles per hour from the National Weather Service on our Slack channel with them, as well as numerous trees down. Again, I want to reiterate that the intersection of Trailhead Drive and US 50 near the Little River Turnpike has numerous trees down, as well as VA 55, the John Marshall Highway between Haymarket and Gainesville. Numerous trees reported down there as well. Now, Steve, as these storms continue to move towards the metro, I can only imagine that we're going to see more reports of this. So if you're hearing us right now and you're about to hit the roads, maybe on your evening commute home, it might be sunny where you're at, but these storms are moving very fast and they will be approaching the area within the next half hour to an hour. So if you're on the fence about leaving, ride this storm out indoors and off the roads because, again, these storms are confirming these strong winds at about 60 to 70 miles per hour with gusts as high as 80 miles per hour.
All right. So, Mark, I just want to show our viewers some cameras around the area. We have a huge network of cameras across the DMV. This is our vantage point from National Harbor, looking across the river toward Wilson Bridge and Old Town Alexandria and Reagan National Airport. What you see on the other corner there is over toward Tyson's Corner, and you can see the skies are rapidly getting darker and darker. If it's not raining where you are right now, most likely that is the case if you are in the district or in Arlington or in Old Town Alexandria. Severe weather is at your very back doorstep, and this is the time where you need to get inside, collect the kids. A lot of kids are out of school now, and the pets, perhaps time to take them for a walk. Put it off for about another hour or so. I do want to show you our camera from Dulles International Airport, where skies are now beginning to brighten. So good news there. The visual that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that is our camera from atop the Watergate Hotel, and that is looking toward Key Bridge and Georgetown, and then off toward the north and west over toward Potomac, and then over toward the Bethesda area. Do want to show you another vantage point here. This is our roof camera here in Roslyn, looking across the city. There's lots of blue sky out there right now, but as mentioned, that is going to change very, very quickly. And this is the reason why we have that rapidly approaching line of severe thunderstorms that will continue to move on off toward the east, moving at around 50 miles per hour. Right now, we'll head in a little bit closer. Reston, you're getting in on it, just about to, over toward Potomac Falls, outside of the Warren area of Poolsville, but still, you're going to see some pretty gusty winds out there over the next, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes or so. But if you are watching us right now in Fairfax or over into Burke and then Lake Barcroft area, even though it's not raining where you are right now, you are going to find this powerful storm that's been tad considerable, a notch down from destructive, that's going to move your way with wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour. And the good news, we're not looking at rotation here in terms of tornadoes, but 70 mile per hour winds, gusty winds, I should say, along with those torrential rains is definitely going to slow things down. And that is going to be the situation, at least as we move through the next hour or so. Now, keep in mind, we are going to see this initial line move through. And once that clears, things should start to settle down across the metro area. But behind that, we have another front that's going to move on through. And that front, the cold front, that's what will bring us some relief from the heat and the humidity that we've experienced over the last couple of days, giving us a brief break for the day tomorrow and then into part of the day on Saturday. But just want you to be warned, once we get through the severe weather today and the quiet days on Friday and Saturday, the heat is going to build tremendously moving into the early next week.
And Steve, I know you and Mark have been on this, which we truly appreciate. You did mention just a little bit ago if people can get kind of inside, maybe an enclosed bathroom away from the windows. Are you still asking people to do that?
At this point, now that we don't have the destructive key on this or the tag, I mean, it's still plenty dangerous out there. You don't want to be outside. You definitely don't want to be near windows during a severe thunderstorm. But the urgency is still there, but perhaps not as great as it was just about 15 minutes ago when we had the destructive tag on that severe thunderstorm warning that has now morphed a little bit. Winds still upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour, and this forward movement is at around 50 miles per hour. So it is going to zip in and out of here rather quickly. If you're going 50 miles per hour on the Beltway, how long that takes you to get from point A to point B, and you can zip around pretty quickly. And with a storm, you don't have to deal with rush hour traffic. You just go at it, and it's going to move on off toward the east. On top of that, we have another severe thunderstorm warnings, or several, that are down toward the south and west of us. But this right here, this is the big one that we're looking at right now that is going to be very impactful as we head through the next hour or so, especially for those inside and around the Beltway, and of course, the most densely populated area of our community.
Steve, you were also talking about Dulles, flights out of Dulles, and I think some of the other impacts, I know Mark mentioned also multiple reports already of trees being down across the area. That is likely going to slow people down if they're commuting, and another reason to just stay off the roads right now, because some of those areas are probably going to get congested. And of course, Dulles, you mentioned, is going to be impacted by this.
And Steve, I know you always tell us to have our First Alert Weather app on our phone. That is where you post everything that we need to know when it comes to these severe storms. What should people do once the storm has passed and they don't have the First Alert Weather app? They should definitely download for the next time, because you guys are always on this.
Absolutely. So, here we have this severe thunderstorm warning that's out there right now. And once this line moves through, it is going to get quieter out there. So good news there. And I don't like to instill panic in anyone, but Winchester and Front Royal, you're fine. You're in the clear, at least from this line of storms. It is well to the east. The bigger concern are all areas that are now inside and around the Capitol Beltway as this continues to move on off towards the east. And the entire district, all of Arlington, all of Alexandria, down to Mount Vernon. And this is where we're seeing not only the heavy rain, the gusty winds, along with a lot of thunder and lightning. So we'll head in a little bit closer for you. It's not raining a drop yet in the district, but that's going to change. Mark, any updates for us?
Lots of down trees coming in on our channel here. Specifically, I've got intersection of Maryland Route 26 and Clee Mill Road. Large trees down onto the roadway there. Several large trees blown down around Dayton, including the 200 block of Sunset Drive and Slab Road. We're also tracking trees blown down on Maryland 25, Falls Road near Benson Mill Road. So what I want to focus on, if we can take Max 1 in the control room, please. The leading edge, this bow that we're seeing here along this line of storms, pretty much approaching the far western portion of the Capitol Beltway right now. This is where the strongest winds are going to be, along this leading edge of this particular cell here. So what I want to indicate here is that while we do have active warnings all up and down this line, it's this leading edge approaching the far western corner of Arlington right now, about to cross the river into the district. This is where we're going to be seeing wind gusts up to 60, 70, and even close to 80 miles per hour. This is going to be the leading edge. This is going to be where the strongest winds are going to be, but also, as Steve has been mentioning, it's a very narrow line of storm. So while it's approaching the Capitol Beltway, areas out towards Middleburg, out towards Loudoun County, you're already in the clear. So along with the heavy rainfall and the gusty winds, a lot of lightning showing up here as well. So if you're outside, if you know people who are outside, contact them, make sure that they're getting indoors, because along with this, there's sunshine on the opposite side of the Capitol Beltway right now. So this might be catching people off guard. So we want to make sure that we're getting the word out to anybody that might be outside to come indoors, away from windows, because while that destructive tag has been allowed to expire, it's this leading edge of this bow right here. We call it a bow echo on radar. That's where the strongest winds are going to be. So areas like Bethesda, you're going to be wanting to take this inside. McLean, you're probably getting the worst of it right now. Highview Park, Northwest DC, Bailey's Crossroads, this edge right here along this bow of this storm will be where the strongest winds are. And we can even see it approaching now. The tower camera here, I can pull this up if you give me just a moment. That this is going to be where we can see some of the strongest winds. This is our tower camera facing northwest, and as you can see, you'll start to see the trees disappear as this heavy rain begins to move on in. I do expect more reports of downed trees as this approaches the metro in a highly populated area. So be very careful of that. We've had just this year, Steve, of trees falling down on homes, and with how saturated our soils are, especially since yesterday, some areas got an inch of rain. I do expect a lot of trees down as the storm moves on through.
Absolutely, and traffic is going to be impacted dramatically by this line of storms as it moves across the area. Do want to give you a quick shot for you right now. What you're looking at on the right-hand side, that is from our tower camera. Skies are definitely getting a lot darker. I'm going to just pan over here to our camera that is atop the Salamander overlooking Roslyn here, and the storms have yet to arrive, and I am tracking one plane that is now about to land at Reagan National Airport. You can see it there, and there is a ground stop at Dulles International. There's a ground stop at BWI Marshall, and now there is a ground stop over at Reagan National. I suspect the plane that we just saw that is just about to land is the last one that's going to come in until the line of storms finally moves on through. And we're going to get an update on power outages for us right now.
Yeah, we're tracking thousands of those already so far. We have checked with Dominion's power outage tracker online. More than 18,000 people have lost power so far in Northern Virginia. Most of that there in Loudoun. You can see Loudoun County, almost 13,000 without power, numbers rising there in Fairfax as well, and Falk here. So that is another impact. If you have not lost power, we want to remind you, charge your devices right now. At least as Victoria was saying, you can have your app, you can watch, follow along, have communication with family members, loved ones. If someone is coming home, if you can contact them and let them know to stay off the roads, to hold off for a bit, you might want to do that right now.
And we know it's getting closer to dinner time, but if you do not have power, do not open your refrigerator or your freezer. Keep that cold air in there to keep your food preserved for as long as you can. This might be a night for peanut butter sandwiches, Megan.
This is the night.
Something where you can't use the microwave, you can't open your fridge. You're going to want to do that because, again, you don't want your food to spoil, so keep that cold air inside.
All right, I got an update on the local airports for you. Thunderstorms often wreak havoc around here, and no change here. BWI Marshall, a ground stop now until 5 o'clock. Another 45 minutes to go there. Reagan National Airport, ground stop until 5:30, so another hour and 15 minutes. And Dulles International Airport, your ground stop now is just about to be lifted at 4:15. We'll see whether or not that's extended over the next few minutes or so. We are looking at storm track for you. Heavy rain continues to fall, and these storms are moving on off toward the east at around 50 miles per hour, and skies are already darkening very, very quickly. If we could take max number 2, and you can see our vantage point over toward National Harbor, from National Harbor, and that's overlooking Wilson Bridge and the Capitol Wheel. I did see the water taxi come in just a few minutes ago, but the skies are rapidly changing, and this is the reason why we have this storm, this strong line of thunderstorms, now considerable, with wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour that are impacting now at this point McLean and Annandale over toward West Springfield and the Mixing Bowl. Very, very busy areas this time of day, and then of course this time of evening, even on a Wednesday. We can see storm track there moving swiftly in the wet weather. Windshield wipers are moving briskly, but the rain continues to fall as this line continues to move on off toward the east at around 50 miles per hour.
Fast-moving storm here, Steve. And again, you said this is moving east. McLean getting the worst of it right now. About what time do you anticipate this hitting D.C. proper, the district area?
I would say within the next 15 to 20 minutes. So there's not a whole lot of time. And at this point, you know, this is like one of those things where you just want to make sure that everything is secure around your house and make sure the kids are in place, the pets and the patio furniture perhaps is secured. And in terms of doing anything extreme to clear anything, I wouldn't bother at this point if you're watching us in Fairfax, because you just at this point have run out of time. But if you are over in northeast D.C. or over into Anacostia, skies are rapidly getting darker, faster and faster as the storm moves on off toward the east. And I wanted to just widen this out for you, and this is tell you some good news here, is that once we get this initial line through, this isn't the actual cold front, it's the leading edge, but we're going to see conditions begin to become a little bit more favorable to improving weather. It's not going to all of a sudden turn instantly beautiful with a beautiful sunset at around 8:36 as we're nearing some of our longest daylight hours of the year, but we are going to continue to track this as it moves on off toward the east. We also have another severe thunderstorm warning south of this that is more of a standard variety severe thunderstorm warning over towards Stafford. I believe we have is this a picture? Okay, so here we are, a picture in Falls Church and the Idlewood area, and a live view for you of a downed tree. So, you know, a lot of wind, 70, 80 mile per hour winds. We have saturated grounds, a lot of old growth trees across the DMV. We're all familiar with that. And very often it just takes a 70 or 80 mile per hour wind, even a brief gust, to become destructive. And we've seen that over the last couple of weeks around here with some of these stronger storms that have moved on through. Leesburg, you're in the clear. Good news there. Reston, you are almost severe clear as this cell moves on out of your area. Manassas, you are just about to be severe clear as we head through the next, I would say, 10 minutes or so. But other areas inside, around the Beltway, the GW Parkway, south of the Capitol Beltway, we had a tremendous amount of problems during the last strong severe thunderstorm. That's going to be impacting 95 and the GW Parkway over the next 15 to 20 minutes. And then we also have a live camera view, and that I believe is over from our Salamander camera, the tidal basin. And you can see there's the rain just moving into the downtown DC. So if you're downtown at this point, it is too late to pick up the garden furniture at this point. You're pretty much stay inside because there are the winds. Maybe we could take that full, we can watch that closely here, and you can see how this destructive storm or considerable storm moves on through.
Steve, if you can hear us, I'm looking at the Dominion Energy outage map right now, and it just updated. Just like you said, from west to east, you see more of these alerts popping up, and it says these outage causes are the storm and that they have crews dispatched. But it's just amazing looking at how many places are without power right now because of the storm moving. As you can see, it's truly hard to see through the rain showers.
Yeah, and what you're looking at right now, that is from atop the Salamander, and normally we would see the Roslyn skyline and the Lincoln Memorial from that vantage point. You can also see some flashes from thunder and lightning, and that's going to be the case as we head through the next, I would say at least the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. But once we get this initial line through, things are going to definitely begin to quiet down just a bit. I'm going to switch this over to our National Harbor camera. You can see that right there. And the skies are plenty dark, but what you're seeing over the district, that's what's eventually going to move through. Tyson's now seeing a little bit of brighter skies, or brightening of the skies, and so good news there. But we are watching this severe thunderstorm warning that continues to progress toward the east, and that is going to be the case as we head through the next half hour or so as it moves around 50 miles per hour, and it is going to be impactful. Areas inside and around the Beltway likely slowing things down for traffic across the area with the heavy rain along with those gusty winds. Should also note we have a severe thunderstorm watch that remains in effect until 9 o'clock, but I do suspect that that will come down ahead of schedule.
Steve, if you are commuting out of D.C., if you're commuting west toward McLean, Tyson's, how long would you recommend staying put as this line moves through?
At this point, if you're heading west from Tyson's, you're going to be okay. You're likely going to run into a few showers, a few storms, especially over the next hour or two, but they're not going to be anything like the significant, more impactful line that we have moving across the area right now. I'm looking at our camera over toward the Salamander, and now the visibility is down to absolutely nothing as this continues to race on off toward the east at around 50 miles per hour. And these strong storms are going to continue to move rapidly across the area. And I should note that, you know, this is all part of a cold front. This is the leading edge of the cold front, and this is the initial push. Today was our fourth 90-degree day so far this year, our second day of 90-degree plus in a row. And the atmosphere is definitely primed and energized with lots and lots of fuel and energy to get through this. But, you know, the good news, what these thunderstorms are going to do, it's going to cool things down. It's going to help stabilize the atmosphere a little bit. So there's not going to be quite as much energy to work with as we head through the next several hours, especially with the sun going down. And we are going to look for those conditions to begin to improve as we head through the early part of the evening. And I would say by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock tonight, most, if not all of this is going to be completely done with. So good news there.
And we are hearing that thunder right outside our studio in Roslyn, and it is quite loud. And what we need to have everyone remember is that even when these storms do pass through and there are clear skies, there are chances that trees could still fall because of the ground saturation. So please stay inside so you do not experience any of this right now. We have thunder, possibly lightning, I saw, Megan, and also those trees, very, very dangerous, could be fatal.
It is so dangerous, and we do want to remind anyone, you know, just for future reference, if you're watching right now, you're likely not driving, but just for future reference, if you are caught in this while you're driving, this is per the National Weather Service, keep your hands, both hands on the wheel, and slow it down. Take it slow if you are ever caught in something like this out on the roadways.
And watch for motorcyclists, because those who went to work this morning, it was clear skies. If they're heading home, you want to make sure that you are keeping an eye out for the motorcyclists that are on the road right now. Possibly, I know I see this a lot under underpasses, overpasses, they'll kind of pull off to the side. So just be mindful of that if you are on the road.
And, you know, we're looking at these pictures here. We have 4 live pictures and the White House, and you can see definitely rain coming down heavily. And then we have our roof camera, and that is looking over toward the district. And then to the lower left-hand corner, that is our National Harbor view. And the rain, it's arriving, and it's just beginning to move into National Harbor. And we are going to rapidly see conditions deteriorate. Wilson Bridge, Old Town Alexandria, right before our eyes. You can see the Capitol wheel very clearly right now, but I can almost guarantee that within the next, I would say 5 minutes or so, or even less than that, we're going to see the Wilson Bridge begin to fade, and then we're going to hardly going to be able to see the Capitol wheel. But thankfully, it looks like everyone is off the boardwalk there over at National Harbor, and the severe thunderstorm warning does continue until 4:45. It's been tad considerable by the National Weather Service, not destructive, but still with winds perhaps upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour, and a strong severe thunderstorm that's going to move across the metro area, continues to move across to the area. Tom has an update on the local airports.
And there is an update from what you said a few minutes ago, Steve. Behind me here, this is from the Federal Aviation Administration, and let me blow it up here for you. It says, for BWI Marshall, there's a ground stop right now, and it says due to thunderstorms. No surprise there. Also, DCA, Reagan National, a ground stop as well. For Dulles, it says updated. It went away a few moments ago, but now it's back. They have a ground stop again, even though the worst of it, based on what you said, Steve, seems to be through Dulles. It is still currently under a ground stop. Just to remind you of what a ground stop is and what that means. What that means is planes elsewhere in the country that want to take off and land at the local airports, those planes have to wait to take off. They don't want them taking off and winding up in terrible weather, so they make them wait for a while. So this affects planes that are going to be coming into the airports. It obviously is affecting planes taking off as well. Some of those are delayed, but what a ground stop is, it affects planes elsewhere that are going to come here. So for instance, you need to pick somebody up at the airport tonight, there's a very good chance their flight is going to be delayed, so check on that. So that's what's going on right now. Currently at this moment, there are ground stops at all 3 of the major local airports.
And I'm just checking, Tom, on Flight Radar 24 that we have a lot of international flights that come in this time of day, and we do have flights that are landing now at Dulles International Airport from Frankfurt, from Abu Dhabi coming in. I see another one here that's coming in from London, and so those are all landing because they're on the other side of this storm, but I'm not seeing anything landing or taking off from Reagan National Airport for very good reason why. And then the same over toward BWI Marshall Marshall. Now there's our screen once again, 4 live cameras for you. Storm track in the upper right-hand corner, and traffic looks like it's moving fine. The pavement is really wet. All depends on where you're located. Then we have the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. You can see the heavy rain, and then just to the right or left of that, it's over toward National Harbor, and you can see that the Wilson Bridge is now quickly beginning to fade, and maybe we'll take that wide and we'll see this come on in, because we're going to see a dramatic difference as we head through the next, I would say, 2 or 3 minutes here. You can see the chop really beginning to pick up on the Potomac River, and now the Wilson Bridge. You can see the southern flank of it toward Alexandria has now disappeared, and you can still barely make out the portion that moves into Oxon Hill National Harbor area, but you can see those winds are definitely beginning to pick up, and the Capitol Wheel is now at a standstill. Can guarantee you that they're not going to run that, at least for not right now, and we're going to continue to watch the severe thunderstorm that's going to move through the National Harbor, Old Town Alexandria area over the next, I would say, 5 to 8 minutes or so, rapidly moving off toward the east at around 50 miles per hour. So things are deteriorating, and I need to stress that if you're watching us over toward Tyson's, your skies are beginning to brighten up just a little bit. Tom has a little update for us.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, Steve, about how this was affecting not just planes that want to come here. They're being told at the moment, hold off, don't take off for this area. But this is Flight Radar 24, which you mentioned. This is Reagan National Airport. Now, normally, if you look at this during a normal time of day, you'll see planes slowly moving all around, getting ready to take off, lining up to do so. One thing you'll notice, these planes right here, they're not moving very much. So clearly, planes are not taking off at the moment from Reagan National Airport due to this weather hitting so bad there right now. Let's check how it is at BWI Marshall up to the north here. Let's go to Glen Burnie, and you can see looks like a similar situation there. You're not seeing a lot of plane movement at the moment. Again, normally you would check at this and they'd be moving around, getting ready to take off. And why don't we just go west to Dulles so we can check that out as well. Easy to find because of the big cluster of planes. And it looks like they may be starting to take off here. We'd have to watch a moment to be sure, but they're at least in position to in some cases, but not a lot of movement here either. You're not seeing much here at Dulles Airport. Actually, if you look at the top of your screen right now, there is a plane that appears to be, let's check it out, hit it here, just landed there, and that one is from Greenville, Spartanburg. So keep in mind, ground stop means any plane that wants to take off to come here, it can't take off, but of course some planes were already in the air long before these storms hit the D.C. area.
How is this going to affect airports around the country? Is it going to?
Well, there's always a ripple effect. So, I mean, anywhere in the country that was expecting flights from any of the 3 major airports around here, they're going to see some delays in those flights coming in. But the biggest impact will definitely be locally. Again, if you have to pick somebody up later, good chance their flight is going to be late, especially if it was supposed to take off in the last hour or so. And then also, if you have a flight, there's a good chance there'll be delays because airlines these days schedule everything so tight that anything like this will throw them off for the rest of the day, and there'll be a lot of chaos. So
and you also have to keep in mind that we have big hubs here in the Washington area. United is based over at Dulles International Airport, their hub, and that's a big network of flights coming and going. Reagan National, we have American Airlines, and then over toward BWI Marshall, Southwest Airlines is the dominant carrier, and Southwest works on this hub and spoke type of formula, and it could be very detrimental for their scheduling as we head through the next even like 12 to 24 hours. So we're going to see this ripple effect. We know what a small thunderstorm can do at Reagan National or at Dulles, and know all of our patients have worn thin at times at the local airports, but this is definitely going to be one of the cases where you'd rather be on the ground than in the air or trying to land at this point, especially in one of these stronger thunderstorms. So I want to show you this here, and I have some good news for you. I want to paint the better picture for you. Potomac Falls, Reston, you're now in the clear. Manassas, you're also in the clear. Marshall, Virginia, in the clear. Warrenton, also in the clear. Frederick, Maryland, no worries at all. A few more showers for you. Hagerstown, you're drying up, at least for right now. The strongest, the storms have now crossed 270. So good good news there, with most of the heavier rain now moving out of Montgomery County. And then we have that line that's just beginning to exit or move out of the district over toward northeast DC, Trinidad. And we're going to see that trend continue. But that heavy rainfall does continue over toward Mount Vernon or over toward Reagan National Airport, and then over down toward Montclair, excuse me, and as all this moves on off toward the north and east. Now, behind all this, it's going to get a little bit quieter, so good news there. It's not going to totally settle down instantly, but we are going to see improving conditions as the storms move out of the region and then off toward the north and east, and then eventually will bring bigger problems to parts of Delmarva, and then if you have travel plans or family up in Philadelphia and perhaps even over into New York City.
And Steve, if we can, we're going to come back to you in just a second. Controller, yes, exactly. I wanted to go back to those local power outages. As you can see, Dominion, more than 60,000 customers that do not have power right now. And I'm looking right now at the Dominion outage map, and it looks like crews are being sent out to these areas. But when you have more than 60,000 customers, this is not people. These are households. Yeah. These could be apartment buildings. So a lot of people without power. So if you're watching us on the app or online, we appreciate you, but make sure you do save some of that battery juice on your phone, because this could take hours, if not more than a day, to restore the power.
To fix. And if you do have a phone, if you need to report an outage, you know, you can do that with your utility company there online. Also, we want to remind you, if you're out and about, please, if you see any down power lines, stay away at least 30 feet. Stay 30 feet away from those. And again, we've been reminding you, if you're in some of these areas that are getting the brunt of this system right now, stay inside, in a room, away from windows, stay safe. Do not go outside. Bring your pets inside as well until this thing moves through.
And if you are in an area where you are safe and able to take photos, you can send them in, WJLA.com/chime in. We will air them on air and online. But again, we want to stress, do it from indoors. If you can't get it safely, your safety is paramount. We can get photos somewhere else. It is all about safety, especially when it comes to the saturated ground and the possibility of trees coming over.
And we have just been seeing this in some of our big storms as of late. A lot of incidents. I mean, this is a dense forest area, and this happens when we see storms, these trees coming down, power lines. I think Mark was mentioning this earlier, already tracking a lot of incidents, trees coming down across the region.
So we've had reports now of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts over at Reagan National, and that's, I mean, nothing too shabby, but it's a big difference between a 70 and an 80-mile-per-hour wind gust. Do want to get a note into you from emergency management out of Montgomery County that multiple calls into their 911 center for multiple trees down across Silver Spring. There's also been reports of many trees down over in the Potomac area, over into Gaithersburg with trees and wires down. Bethesda, the 8400 block of River Road, reporting multiple trees and wires down, along with wires reported to be arcing and sparking. Tom?
Yeah, you mentioned in Montgomery County, Pete Pieringer, who works with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, always works very hard in situations like this. This is his feed on X right here, and it's just a list of problems right now. You have Mohican Drive, you got trees down and a vehicle on fire, it says, fully engulfed. And then he did an update saying the road's blocked, wires are down. Connecticut Avenue, East-West Highway, you got a collision involving a tree on a vehicle. Also, he reports a tree on a house. Home Place Lane in the Potomac area. And then another tree on a house there near Bar Road in Bethesda. And then he's got some video as well as some pictures. This is the River Road area, he says, between the Beltway and Falls Road. You got a lot of problems there, and this is just one of the pictures he's put out there of crews on the scene at the moment. It looks like some power lines down and just a mess there in the River Road area. So he's reporting a lot of issues in Montgomery County, and it seems like, Steve, based on what you've been saying, those issues are traveling east at the moment.
Exactly. And Tom, I suspect that, you know, we're looking at the severe thunderstorm warning, still tad considerable until 4:45, that we're going to see the National Weather Service office reshape this, because many areas that are under the warning technically are now totally in the clear. But in its wake, we have a lot of damage reports reports across the area. We're going to head over to Mark Pena. He's on max number 1. That's our technical terms around here. And he's going to show us all his storm reports.
Yeah, you know, just in the past 6 hours, but really these storms, I can put this to just the last hour, and you can see that we've got numerous down trees. That's the little down tree icons that you see in areas like Deanwood and in northwest DC, just north of Idlewood at this time. This also lets us know that the highest wind gust at DCA has been 61 mile per hour, which is what Steve reported on just a few moments ago. But I do expect these to expand. These are coming in real time. So as people start to assess their damage, it'll get reported to the National Weather Service and also and then relayed back to us. But what I also want to show you too here, Steve, is the rainfall. Just in the past hour, radar estimates of about 2 to 3 inches, especially in areas like Fairfax County. So some torrential downpours in just the last hour, but take a look at the last 24 hours. We've had some pockets of up to 2 to 3 inches across portions of Montgomery County and Fairfax County. So this rain is falling on some very saturated soils. You toss in the strong winds with this. It doesn't even have to be 60, 70, 80 mile per hour. A strong wind gust of up to 30, 40 miles per hour can knock down some trees. And so I'm gonna pull up the radar again and show you where the active warnings are across the area. So this is moving through very fast and already exiting the western portion of the Capitol Beltway. But as you can see, storms are moving into portions of Prince George's County, where we've also seen a lot of rainfall. So along with the threat for damaging winds, it's the heavy rainfall that is coming from this that will likely cause some ponding on the roadways, swelling the creeks and streams and low water crossings. There's no active flash flood warnings at this time, but remember, turn around, don't drown. You have no idea how high some of the water can be sometimes, and it could definitely save your life in moments like this. Steve.
All right, Mark, so let's give the all clear to Potomac Falls and for Reston and for Fairfax and for Manassas. Even though you are still technically under the area that has been alerted, we're waiting for the National Weather Service to give us an update and to reshape the polygon or the shape of the actual warned area. But this is all moving off toward the north and east, and you can see that right ahead of that current warning that is shaded in white here, and this is now getting on the fringe of our viewing area over toward the Bay Bridge. They're next in line for the strong storms. But our concentration now remains for our viewing area and then over into the northeastern quadrant of the district, over toward Anacostia and National Harbor. And things are already dramatically improving over toward the Springfield Mixing Bowl, over down toward Fairfax. Tyson's, you're now fine. Mantua, you're fine. Moving into Potomac, even though you have a lot of perhaps trees down and wires on the ground, definitely be very careful. But where 270 meets the Capitol Beltway over toward the spur, now just light rain, nothing that is severe. And this is going to rapidly move out of our technical viewing area, I would say comfortably within the next 15 to 20 minutes, if not perhaps a little bit faster than that, as it zips on off toward the east at just around 50 miles per hour.
And Steve, we got an update. More than 75,000 customers without power in Northern Virginia. And we want to show you what some people are posting online when it comes to these storms. If we can pull up our tag board. And let's see, Brad Bell, our very own Brad Bell, he is at the University of Maryland, and look at the winds whipping through. Coming through there, and it looks like Brad is inside, which is good. If you're going to get video, definitely stay indoors to be safe, because those winds can do a lot of damage.
So serious, especially some of these wind gusts Steve and Mark are tracking here, 50 miles per hour. And you know, we just want to draw your attention to even last month. We had 2 people killed when trees fell on their cars. They were inside of vehicles. So if you can get off the road, you saw from that video that Brad shared there, it looked like, thankfully, not too many people on the road except for a person there crossing the street. Looks like, though, they were running to safety to get inside. This is from Patricia Eugenio. I truly regret not bringing an umbrella today. Absolutely, and it was tricky. I think we mentioned that earlier. You know, it started out as a sunny, warm day for us today. So probably many people weren't necessarily, you know, thinking that they would end their day with such a rainy, stormy evening like this. But stay inside if you can this evening. This is from our own Christian Flores.
Yeah, Christian Flores looks like he is in one of our
Arlington right now.
Yeah, in Arlington in one of our cars, and he is not driving. He is in the passenger seat getting this video, and you can see the rain is already pulling on the roads right there, and it looks like he might be on I-66. Right there. And again, WJLA.com/chime in if you have video or photos that you would like to share with us. You can see them on air. and online. But again, first case is to stay safe and to stay away from any down power lines, any trees. If you do see some light, there's a tree that fell right there.
Man.
Sarah Burris posted this one, a tree coming down in Northwest DC. Just dangerous stuff there.
And that was one of the areas even that is just starting, I believe, from what Steve and Mark were saying. You know, this started moving through McLean, Tyson's toward D.C., so we're already seeing trees come down in D.C. We talk about the cleanup. We heard the thunder rolling through even about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, our station. We're based out of Roslyn. So this system, wow, and you see that tree down right there. This system is moving really fast. So too late, as Steve said earlier, to get outside and tie down the umbrellas. Don't worry about it. Get inside to one of the inner rooms and away from those windows. Stay off the roads if you can.
And at this point, you know, let's use the district as your center point in the picture here. 16th Street, it goes straight up to Silver Spring. If you're on the western side of 16th Street Northwest, you're in the clear. No worries at all for you. However, Northeast DC over toward parts of Trinidad and then over toward Anacostia, still raining quite heavily right now. Silver Hill, Walker Mill into Prince George's County, Melwood, you're just on the leading edge of the stronger storm with wind gusts upwards of 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. Clinton, Maryland, you're just on the edge, but you'll head in a little bit closer. Morningside, heavy rain. Kettering, Maryland, also looking at heavy rain. Same for Bright Seed and Woodmore and Lanham, Maryland. But then you head a little bit farther off toward the east. You're dry. DuPont Circle, Woodley Park, Cleveland Park, AU Park, Chevy Chase, all looking at quieter conditions. Your severe weather threat is now past well to the east of you, so no additional worries there. The entire western half of the Capital Beltway using, let's say, Chevy Chase all the way down and around a half moon to Old Town Alexandria. Your severe weather has now cleared, and I'm still waiting for the National Weather Service to perhaps reshape this, and not sure if they're going to necessarily do that, if they're just going to let this expire coming up in just about 3 more minutes. I do suspect that's probably what they're going to do, and then continue with the secondary severe thunderstorm warning that is also marked as considerable but not as destructive. Looking at emergency management report that just came in from Tacoma Park, they have a possible tree on a house over on the 7900 block of Tacoma Avenue. In Silver Spring, there's also a report of a tree on a house in the 1600 block of Noyes Drive. And then over into Palisades Court in Kensington, a possible tree on a house. So that's 3 separate tree incidents that we're looking at right now, all in Montgomery County. And then we're all watching those very closely. And then I'm looking now at a 4th one in Bethesda with a possible tree on a house on Vorlick Lane. So a very, very active weather maker, a lot of power outages. But the good news, Montgomery County, you are now, for the most part, in the clear. Most of the district, with the exception of extreme eastern quadrants, looking at those stronger storms, but the strongest of the storm has now moved well into Prince George's County. And Mount Vernon, you're now looking at drier conditions. The severe storms are now over with. Waldorf, you have a heavier cell right over you, but you are not warned on right now. And the same over toward Pamunkey. I take that back. You have a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:30. I stand corrected there. We have so many different severe thunderstorm warnings at this point that when you look at the big picture here, you're seeing a lot of data and boxes that we're trying to keep straight. The National Weather Service is trying to keep straight. And but what should be noted here is that once this line, this initial line of strong storms moves on through, which it's doing right now very quickly, we're going to look for quieter conditions moving into the evening, especially by 7, 8 o'clock. And I do suspect that that severe thunderstorm watch will come down well ahead of schedule at 9 o'clock. We're looking right now, a live view, Landover, Maryland. And you can see traffic not moving so fast. We're going to head a little bit closer over here to Prince George's County. And you can see they are under the severe thunderstorm warning. The good news, and this is definitely good news here, the severe thunderstorm warning that was tad considerable for the district, Arlington and Alexandria and all areas inside and around the Beltway has now canceled out. So the district and the areas inside and around the Beltway, you are now in the clear as this moves on off toward the east.
And Steve, this is moving by very quickly. I'm looking at a live video of the White House where it was really hard to see just a few minutes ago. It is now looks like clear skies. Even though this is moving quickly, kind of the remnants, they're going to stick around. We have more than 75,000 people with customers, that is, without power in Northern Virginia. I'm sure that's going to expand to D.C. and Maryland once we get those numbers in. So moving by quickly, but this is going to impact our area for a while.
A lot of cleanup, especially if there are downed trees. We know arborists come in and they have to, patients also with emergency response crews. I think Victoria mentioned earlier they are going to be flooded with calls right now.
Yes, and if you do not have power, I'm going to suggest do not open your refrigerator, do not open your freezer. You want to keep that cold air in there until you can get your power restored. That is just to keep your food preserved so you don't have to waste anything. It's almost dinner time. I'd suggest kind of going in the pantry, maybe making some peanut butter sandwich. That's what I have to do when I get home, Megan, because
that sounds pretty good.
That is not going to be anything fancy for dinner tonight.
Smart. That is a good tip. That's a pro tip.
I need to stress here also Prince George's County over toward Walker Mill. You're going to be in the clear very, very shortly, and that leading edge of the stronger storms now beginning to rapidly deteriorate. In fact, that leading edge is now almost firmly out of our viewing area, so we're probably going to phase into the next part of our forecast over the coming days, and that is going to be a brief break from the heat and humidity. That's going to come tomorrow, and then moving into the day on Saturday, but next week, not going to brace ourselves for severe weather, but rather extreme heat. And we're looking at perhaps some of the hottest consecutive days that we've seen around here in a long, long time, with heat index values by Monday and Tuesday around 105 to 110 degrees. So I do suspect that we'll see some alerts for you there. We're going to continue to follow everything here as we move through the remainder of the evening, but I am happy to say that the worst of it is now over with for the district, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, over into Montgomery and Frederick counties, although in its wake, a lot of power outages, a lot of trees down, and quite a bit of damage from what I can see from emergency management over into the Montgomery County area. Do want to give you an update from emergency manager out of city of Alexandria that there are reports of multiple trees down on Cameron Street, on Pitt Street, the 800 block of South Pitt Street, and then over into North Howard in the West Braddock Road area with multiple trees down, and many trees down on houses in Montgomery County. I'm looking at here from Tacoma Park to Silver Spring to Kensington and into Bethesda.
You are outside and you say, hey, the storm isn't here. Why are you still talking about that? It's because it has moved by quickly, but there are thousands of customers that are impacted by it. So it might be sunny skies right now. But Steve, it really did hit a punch in the DMV.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and the good news is that, we're seeing this, I'm going to wind this out here for you. And, you look at this secondary line, that's actually the actual cold front that's going to eventually move on through. But you notice nothing's warned on it. And that is definitely fantastic, fantastic news. We're getting the worst of it out of the way now, and then we'll see quieter conditions as we head into the next couple of hours or so. But our forecast really has held together quite well in terms of the severe weather moving through. We knew it happened around the dinner time hour and give or take an hour or so, and that's exactly what happened. But now we're looking at the strongest of storms now moving out of our viewing area over into the Baltimore area. Of course, you can go head over to WBFF if you are watching in that area, and they'll give you continuous coverage on their end.
Yeah, Steve, Mark, thank you for your work today. Jumping into action for some serious breaking news. I believe Tom Rousey now, who is tracking kind of what's happening in the skies, also has an update. He was talking about those ground stops, Tom.
Yeah, want to give you an update on them. All three major airports still have those, and remember, a ground stop means that planes that are supposed to take off to come here cannot do so. So you saw BWI Marshall. It has a ground stop that's supposed to last until at least 5 o'clock. That could be changed, however. And then you have Reagan National, DCA, has one as well at the moment. That one's supposed to last till 5:30. Dulles is, at this point, it says, could last until 5:15. Again, that's always subject to change, however, and it also says the departure delays at Dulles are averaging about an hour at this point. So a mess at the local airports. As far as on the roads, we're seeing a lot of impact from this. I want to show you one in particular. I mentioned about 10 minutes ago or so how Montgomery County Fire was reporting a lot of trees down and just a mess on River Road between the Beltway and then Falls Road in the center of Potomac there, and we're seeing some of that on River Road, particularly if you're heading kind of east or southeast bound on there. A lot of blood red, which means really bad traffic, and that is the area where there's just been a mess, and it's affecting things in that area. Of course, a lot of other traffic throughout the area being affected as well. Even though it is the Juneteenth holiday, a lot of folks still had to go to work today, even though some were off. So we're seeing a lot of traffic jams throughout the area, but particularly in areas where those trees are down at the moment. So that's the latest on the skies and the roads, ladies.
All right, and I was just checking real quick for Metro. They did post on X that to check the Metro Pulse app because there could be some delays in the buses. They are on a Saturday schedule though, and to take extra precaution when you go on above ground platforms and escalators. That is if you're using Metro Bus or Metro Rail. And Megan, we got an update on outages.
We have them up on your screen here. So we have in total this is around 130,000 customers without power right now across Virginia and Maryland. So we've been talking about just the response, as Victoria was mentioning, those refrigerated appliances, keep the fridge doors closed. You know, depending on where you are, if it's safe to go outside, it was really warm today. If you have elderly neighbors, family members maybe who live near you, you know, size up the area where you're at, but when it is safe to go check on them, definitely worth, especially if you've lost power, maybe you can't get in contact with them, definitely worth making sure that they are okay today as well with these outages.
And remember, when you have 130,000 customers between Dominion and Pepco in the DMV area, this is going to take a while to get to all these outages to restore power. So please be patient. Use your phone to report any outages in your area so that Dominion or Pepco knows to head to your neighborhood to help restore power. But this could be hours, if not longer. I'm hoping not, because of the temperatures and because people just need power to get through their daily lives. Again, it is almost dinner time for many people, and if you don't have power, make sure that you kind of eat what you have. Don't open your fridge, and make sure that you have your phone charged up if you can. I suggest kind of going into the car and plugging it in that way if you don't have power at your house. But more than 130,000 customers right now with this very quick moving storm.
And that was part of the issue, I think, is that it moved so quickly, you know, so we know many people were impacted in a short period of time. And as we were saying, that's going to impact the response to get everything back online and up and running here. But please stay safe. And thank you for joining us here on 7 News. At 4 o'clock, we're sending it back over to our Steve Rudin. Steve Rudin and Mark Pena doing just a fabulous job today tracking all this for us.
All right, want to give you a quick update, and we do have the all clear, thank goodness, for the district in Arlington and Alexandria. We still have several severe thunderstorm warnings that are out there, but they're mainly east of D.C., and they're exiting our 7 News viewing area as they get ready to move across the bay and perhaps cause some bigger problems up toward Baltimore, where they right now have a considerable severe thunderstorm warning. But Waldorf, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning right now. I just want to give you a quick update on that, and that is until 5:30. This is moving on off toward the east with winds at 60 miles per hour, and then over toward Nanjemoy, also looking at a severe thunderstorm warning, and that one now extends until 5:30, so about another 35 minutes to go. Fredericksburg, you've been sort of trailing on the back edge of all this. Yesterday, you had hardly any rain whatsoever. Today, you have that severe thunderstorm warning, and this one remains in effect until 5:30, and that's for wind gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour. But I do believe, and I'm fairly confident on this, that once we do get all this out of the way here, that we're going to see better weather on the way, at least for the short period. This evening, a few showers, may hear a few rumbles of thunder, but I do believe the severe component is going to be much more limited as we head into later this evening, and then hardly anything at all overnight. And then come tomorrow, when you walk out the door, it's going to be a noticeable difference. The air is not going to feel quite as thick and quite as soupy and uncomfortable. But need to stress, I'll head in a little bit closer for you here. Looking at all areas inside and around the Beltway. If you're watching us at Walker Mill, you have just some heavier rain right now, but nothing that is warned on right now. All the severe thunderstorm warnings have expired or canceled out for the district, for Arlington, for Fairfax, over into Loudoun County. Fantastic, fantastic news. The Panhandle of West Virginia, but now Southern Maryland going to get in on the action here as we head through the next hour or so as all this races on off toward the east. Mark? Oh, nope, never mind. Sorry. And we are going. Max 1. Mark has Max 1 ready to go.
One, this is our National Landing Altair weather camera. Traffic is a nightmare crossing the 14th Street Bridge, as we expected, with not only severe storms moving through during rush hour, but also with the heavy rainfall that came with these storms. Thankfully, though, just from viewing this image here, no noticeable trees down. I look at this camera every day and not seeing too much in the way of any damage there. As Steve has been mentioning, these storms are exiting out towards the west or the east rather quickly. So far eastern portions of Prince George's County under the last of these severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm also going to pull up so far when it comes to local storm reports. And so we see a lot of trees down and a lot of wind gusts with this. And so far, I haven't seen too much additional, but we are very well informed from our National Weather Service office on Slack, and we are getting numerous reports of trees down on top of roads, on top of homes. So as these storms continue to exit, tread very cautiously when surveying your damage, because the local response units are going to be swarmed with a lot of reports as these storms exit the region.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark Pena, for your help there. We're looking right now, live view, National Harbor, and a very much improved view from what we saw just about 20 minutes ago. Skies are definitely beginning to get a little bit brighter, and we'll welcome that anytime. Dulles International Airport, where you had that destructive storm that moved on through with winds reported on radar upwards of 80 miles per hour. Your skies are now beginning to clear a little bit with some blue skies, so we welcome that. Our next vantage point takes us from our rooftop camera here at Roslyn overlooking the city. You can definitely see not severe weather, but a very soupy Potomac River, and there's Roosevelt Island for you. Very lush considering all of the rain that we've had around here over the last several weeks. Bluemont, Virginia, farther off to the west, it's beginning to dry out. Folks are now beginning to take part in perhaps some evening dinner time activities. And then our final stop will take us over toward the Bay Bridge, where the storm is just beginning to arrive. And that is going to be the case as we move through the next 20 minutes or so. I don't have any reports that there's a slowdown or that they're going to close the Bay Bridge, but you can see lots of thunder and lightning there right now. But of course, they always make decisions quickly there and may decide to change things over the next few minutes. And of course, we will keep you updated on all the severe weather across the area. Just to recap everything, the district, Arlington, Alexandria, you are now in the clear. Severe thunderstorm warnings do continue over toward Annapolis and Bowie in the Baltimore area outside of our viewing area. And then we do have another severe thunderstorm warning that will extend until 5:30. And this is impacting over toward Fredericksburg and eventually the Northern Neck, Colonial Beach. And if it does hold together, it will impact Leonardtown and then extreme southern Maryland. But once again, Fairfax and Loudoun and Montgomery County, the district, over into the I-81 corridor, the worst of the severe weather for this round is now done with, and now we'll await the actual cold front to move through, and that should come down or come through with very much less fanfare than we've seen over the last hour and a half or so as these storms rapidly moved across the area. We knew it was going to be a short duration window. I thought perhaps it would. It looks like it may very well end up being just an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then the cleanup will begin for many neighborhoods. And from what I've seen online from emergency management in Montgomery County and then over into Alexandria, the cleanup is going to continue not only for this evening, but also tomorrow and then perhaps even into the upcoming weekend. We're going to continue to follow the active severe thunderstorm warnings. 7 News at 5 begins right now.
7 News on your side at 5 starts now. We begin with a breaking news alert.
First at 5 o'clock, we are taking a live look outside as we're on severe alert right now. We have our photojournalists out on the roads right now across Virginia and Maryland, where we're seeing multiple reports of power lines down and trees down on roads and houses.
And we have crews heading out to some of the damage reports that we're getting into our newsroom, and we'll go to them for updates throughout the evening. We'll show you exactly what they're seeing out in the field. We're going to go first, though, to our meteorologist, Steve Rudin, who has nonstop been tracking all of this. He's timing out the storms in our First Alert Weather Center with what we can expect and where. Steve?
All righty, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that does remain in effect until 9 o'clock tonight, but I do suspect that parts, if not all of it, is going to come down ahead of schedule. Here we are at 5 o'clock. I believe the worst of the storms have now moved out of the immediate metro area, now moving over toward the Bay and Annapolis and Baltimore. Bowie are just about to exit a severe thunderstorm warning, but inside around the Beltway, where the worst of the storms were last hour, you're now totally fine. No worries there, but we do have to head a little bit farther down to the south over toward Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania, and then over toward the northern neck. A severe thunderstorm warning, an active one, does remain in effect until 5:30 this evening. These cells are moving at around 40-45 miles per hour, but more important to note that this severe thunderstorm warning has not been tagged as considerable or destructive. It's more of a run-of-the-mill severe thunderstorm warning with wind gusts perhaps upwards of 60 miles per hour, nothing like the 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts that we had earlier. Widen the view out just a bit. The cold front is still well off toward the west of us, and that cold front will actually move through later on this evening, and behind it we're going to see a push of drier air, so not as humid for the day. Tomorrow will be a little bit cooler temperature-wise, but you need to brace yourself. We have some big changes that are on the way, especially the end of the upcoming weekend into early next week. I'm going to have more on that with extreme heat. When I mean extreme heat, we're talking heat index values perhaps approaching 105 to 110 degrees.
All right, thank you, Steve. And we want to bring you a look at some of the damage right now that we're getting into our newsroom all around our area. Our Maryland Bureau Chief, Brad Bell, shared this video on his X account just a short while ago. You can see the rain and those strong winds as they were arriving there at the UMD campus. And this is a look just outside of our studios here in Roslyn within the last half hour or so. You can see there skies dark, bolt of lightning lighting up the skies as it was very, very active all across our area.
Yeah, this is a very intense system. Once it hits your area, you know it's there. One of our photojournalists saw this tree down across Idlewood Road in Falls Church, and we unfortunately are seeing a lot of this, trees coming crashing down. Another report just coming in out of Tacoma Park of a large tree actually struck a house. It's being evacuated because it also hit the gas line in that home.
And take a look at this. This is in Montgomery County, where fire officials shared this video showing the view from one of their crew cars as there are power outages there. Trees down, wires down. River Road in Potomac is closed right now near Persimmon Tree Road.
And we also obtained this video. It shows this tree limb falling and hitting a power line. Yeah, right there in real time. This camera happened to be rolling. And that's what happens. Obviously, you definitely want to only shoot video from a safe distance. You don't want to be out in this, but this is some of what we're seeing coming in.
Yeah, and here's one where this is a photo that I just shared on my X account. This is my brother-in-law, in fact, his road leading to his house there, right off of the Georgetown Pike area of Great Falls and Fairfax County. Tree down, blocking the road there. Another image he shared with me showed a tree just snapped in half, but pretty high up on the tree. So it shows you how dangerous all of this can be. But we'll continue to post more on social media if you want to check that out as well. All right, we just checked with our local utility companies. Nearly 130,000 people have lost power across our area. Dominion is reporting nearly 95,000 people across Northern Virginia, more than 63,000 in Fairfax County alone. Pepco numbers are going up as well as the storms cross Maryland now. 21,000 just in Montgomery, over 10,000 in Prince George's, and we expect that to go up as the storm reports continue to come in.
And we do want to see what's happening in your neighborhood right now. Just scan the QR code on your screen and you can send us a photo or video on Chime In.
All right, we're going to check in now with Tom Rousey. He's over at the alert desk. He's got an update on the roads as well as the local airports, which were certainly impacted. Tom?
Well, and Scott, has been the case for well over an hour now. We've still got those ground stops at the major airports in our area. You see BWI Marshall, ground stop till at least 6. That's been extended. Also, Reagan National has a ground stop right now until at least 5:30, but that's been extended several times. And then Dulles still has one. It's supposed to go until at least 5:15, 10 minutes from now. I also want to show you, as Steve said, the storms have moved east. However, places like Annapolis getting it right now. Let me blow this up for you if I get the chance. Hold on. There we go. So that is Annapolis. This is US 50 at 3:01. You can see it is slow, rainy going there right now. As far as traffic in our area, we mentioned all those reports of downed trees. Some of the areas I'm seeing that are affected the most happen to be in kind of to the northwest of D.C., Tyson's Corner on up into Maryland. You're seeing a lot of red on the traffic camera here. One area in particular, River Road, apparently had a lot of trees down, and eastbound River Road is a mess right now between the center of Potomac and the Beltway. So slow going out there, and certainly with all the downed trees, if you don't have to be out on the roads, or if you're in Annapolis where it's raining right now, if you don't have to be out on the roads, it's a good time to just stay inside and watch us here at Channel 7. Michelle and Scott.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. We'll get back to our weather coverage shortly. But today, before all of these storms, 7 News was there as more than 200 people united both sides of the Anacostia.
Our Washington, D.C. reporter, Felicia Ashley, tells us how an idea and desire for change made an impact this Juneteenth.
We put this together in 2 weeks because we understand that we don't come together, everything that we have will be erased. Not just our history, but our businesses and everything.
Ronald Moulton and Anna